Welcome back to the Overdue Sports Show, episode 9 of the Overdue Sports Show. I'm your host, Jake Sawinski, accompanied, as always, by Will Massa. How we doing, Will?
Just another week in the books. Spring training is ramping up. We're getting ready for opening day. College baseball in full swing. We're on the hot stove for NFL, and March Madness right around the corner. We got Selection Sunday in approximately 13 days.
Yes, we are getting down to the brass tacks in a lot of these sports. And like you said, a little bit of hot stove action to start. But before we get into the NFL crazy weekend, this is going to be like the little clip. I can think of it already for the promo video. Guys, watch our previous conference previews because they are fucking terrible. I probably shouldn't swear in the clip, but I don't care. They're so bad. Like, I was thinking about this, like, oh, Will and I talked about recording today, and it's like, oh my God, we have to do more of these. Like, every video, every conference we talked about, dud, dud, dud. And then there's Robert Morris and Troy, who's fighting for their lives right now. Troy's fighting for their lives, but oh my God, horrible. Like, I don't even know. Missouri Valley, like who the hell did we say? They lost. Yeah, well, they won, but right? Yeah, I think they did. Yeah, probably. America East. SoCon. We're like, oh, no one outside of Furman. Wofford's playing in the championship game right now, and they're playing close with Furman. Yeah, it's like Southland. Well, that one still remains to be seen because McNeese hasn't played yet. But I'm trying to find the notes from the other session we had. But whatever it was, they were wrong. So, like, if you want to laugh at us, that's what you should go check out right there. That's what you need to go see.
we still got we got Wilmington alive in the CAA still. We still got Cleveland State alive in the horizon. You gotta give us a little bit more credit.
No, I don't. Maybe I'll give you a little more credit, but I'm not giving myself any more credit because I've been a dumpster for the last 2 weeks. But anyways, that's all right. You guys aren't liking and subscribing enough because there's not enough views. We got to keep bumping those numbers up. So go listen to our real shit takes. So that'll be a good laugh.
Even if you tell us we're idiots, we'll take it.
Well, you don't have to tell us we're idiots because we say we're idiots, which is so true because I'm definitely an idiot. Don't do anything I say. All right. The NFL was crazy this weekend. ESPN notification after ESPN notification. I wouldn't say this was the biggest implication of the entire weekend, but we have a little bit of a personal signing, trade, whatever you want to call it. The New York Jets scooped up Justin Fields after cutting Aaron Rodgers over the last couple of days. How are you liking Justin Fields?
We got the truth. Everybody in Chicago, he is the truth. I'm actually really excited about this. I've been on the train that they should not draft a quarterback. I've been very adamant. I don't like this quarterback draft. And you can go back. I believe I've been saying this since we were doing the NFL look-aheads back in September and October, November, that I've been saying the Jets should just go get Justin Fields. Like, I think he would be a good fit in that system. And sure enough, Justin Fields, they didn't overpay for Sam Darnold. I love it. Everything about it. This solidifies to me that they're willing to make moves that make sense for them. And I think that this is a move that makes a lot of sense for them. I would rather take my chance with Justin Fields. Is he going to work out? I have no idea. Given the Jets' track record, no, he's probably going to be horrible. But I will take my chances with him over, maybe trading a Garrett Wilson to move up in the draft and then take Shador or take Cam Ward and then have it blow up in their face like Zach Wilson did. I am totally okay with them doing this. And they didn't spend a whole lot of money on it. I believe he got 2 years, $40 million, if I'm not.
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, he got 20 per year, so 2 years for 20 each. I like it. I think he's going to work well with the running back room. I love the running back room they have in New York right now. I think he's going to be able to spoon feed Garrett Wilson the ball, which as long as you keep him happy, he's a stud. I mean, he's a 1,000-yard receiver every single year. So I'm really happy with this move. I would like to see them actually trade their pick now and move down and get some more draft capital and then bolster the line, pick up some guys on defense, whatever else you think you need to do. because having that I think they're at the 8 spot or 9 spot. Like having that pick for them doesn't really move the needle. I would rather them trade back and pick up a little bit more capital maybe on day 2. So I'm a big fan of this move. We'll see how I feel about this in September, but for the time being, I'm pretty happy about it. And not to say that he's taking us to a Super Bowl or he's taking us to the playoffs. Nothing like that. I mean, he very well could, but I just think it was time for them to get somebody who's played in the NFL before. And yes, Aaron Rodgers has played in the NFL before, but he was 40.
Different. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like he didn't really get the chance in Chicago. A lot of those teams they built around him were really bad. I think this is going to be a good fit. I think things are looking up in New York. This is exactly who I personally wanted. I've had, we talked about the coach hire, so I still have some question marks around the coaching hire because it just feels like they're rerunning what they normally do with the coaching hire and they need to mix that up. But I think things could be trending in the right direction. I mean, I just want to see them win a couple of games. I just want to watch them.
Yeah,
I haven't watched them
true.
in
they're
3
hard
years.
to watch.
They're so not fun to watch. Like I just hope that I can sit down on a Sunday this year and actually watch them.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see how they play without any expectations because I feel like there are none, right? Like Aaron Rodgers' experiment was like, oh, like this is kind of what we needed. And I think like in another universe that could have worked out because like all the talent was there, it seemed like. But it just, the injury last year, or I should say like, 2023, 2024, that season. And then this year just, kind of just blew up in your face. So I'm curious to see how they play without any expectations. But I agree. I think that is a good signing as well. But just going down the list of all of the transactions or signings, Josh Allen's now the highest paid quarterback per year in the league. I think he signed, what was it, a $330 million contract for 6 years. That's a lot of money. Patriots, they were kind of buyers. Like they've spent a lot of money for the, how do I want to word it, like growing pain season of last year. That might be a little generous, but that was a little surprising to me. A lot of free agent activity, despite being not very good last year. But Justin Fields of the Jets we've talked about. T. Higgins got franchise tagged again, staying with the
really
Bengals.
Surprising.
Well,
I don't know if that surprised you, but that surprised me. I mean, I don't know if the majority feeling is that he was going to get moved because he loses a lot of receptions to Jamar Chase, and he wants wide receiver 1 money. But that kind of surprised me that he's sticking around. And I think if you're a fantasy player specifically, like I think you now have a lot more stock in T. Higgins because who knows how he would have performed as the receiver number 1.
1 or 2 anywhere else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that what I was going to say to you was like, you were like, were you surprised by that? And I was like, well, I was thinking of it from like a team perspective. Like, no, like what else are they going to do? They can't pay him. Yeah. Like they literally can't pay him. So maybe like they were feeling out the market, and I don't know if he's still technically under contract yet, but maybe he didn't get a compelling offer to go anywhere else. Maybe maybe the Bengals appropriated his value correctly. I'm not really sure. But they're kind of just handcuffed. You gave Chase that huge contract this last season or the year before. You paid Joe Burrow a crap ton of money. So it's like I don't really know what else they can do. Yeah, I don't know. But Myles Garrett re-signed with the Browns. That was really funny to me too because like he was like, I demand a trade. I don't even he wanted out, and then he signs a big bag with Cleveland, which is a little weird, but whatever. DK Metcalf was traded to the Steelers. I call them the Stillers. Here we go, Stillers. Traded to the Steelers. Geno Smith to the Raiders. Javonte Williams to the Cowboys. The Commanders got Deebo Samuel and Bobby Wagner. Hassan Reddick's on the Buccaneers. Devontae Adams signed with the Rams this afternoon. Sam Darnold signed with the Seahawks this afternoon. So a lot of changes with some familiar faces with the the news from the last couple of days. Now, I wanted to ask you, since you were on the don't sign Sam Darnold trade, are the Seahawks going to regret giving him all of that money? Because I think they're kind of going to.
I think they are too, especially with they just cut Tyler Lockett a couple of days ago, and now DK is gone. So, yeah, you still have Smith and Jigba. I like him a lot. He's
Jake Bobo's wide receiver too.
He's turning into a star. So he's got a couple of pieces, but that's going to be a completely different offense. I think this year might be the let's see if Sam Darnold is actually an NFL caliber quarterback now that he doesn't have Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson to kind of lead back on. So it'll be interesting to see. I think they are going to regret giving him that money. That's why I was so weary with the Jets, because familiar face, he's been in the system, this, that, and the other. Not that they ever really gave him a fair chance in my book, but I think towards the end of the season, you started to see his true colors, and the money that they were going to give, or the money that he got, is not something I wanted the Jets to dish out. And I thought it was interesting on the Vikings part, because JJ got hurt last year. So for them to kind of have the confidence to give him the keys after being hurt for the majority of last year, I thought was really interesting. But I think he's going to be a really good fit with Kevin O'Connell. I think that's a really good system fit for JJ. It's going to be very much so like the Michigan system. And, you can just spoon feed JJ the ball and you'll be all right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. And just that coach factor really sets him over the edge for me. But you did allude to some cuts. I've got a couple of those listed down as well. Joey Bosa got cut. I didn't read into it a ton, but that was a little surprising to me, because he's one of the best edge rushers in the league, and it's like, well, Jim Harbaugh, gritty, tough-nosed football guy, defense and running the ball, and then it's like you cut that guy. So maybe they just didn't want to pay him. I'm assuming that's something along the lines. Constantly hurt too. I mean, his brother too. They're both on the shelf a lot. So nature of the position, I guess. But that kind of took me for surprise a little bit. Christian Kirk, Darius Slay, Aaron Rodgers, obviously, Jamal Williams, Raheem Mostert. They were all cut. Sam Hubbard retired very suddenly too, and he joins a list of players that retired very prematurely, like Luke Kuechly or Calvin Johnson, among others. So really, really busy NFL weekend. Anything else? Anything you've got to add?
Commanders are doing awesome stuff. They might be a wagon next year.
Yeah, I mean, they were kind of a wagon this year. Like, I think people in the building expected them to be a lot better from, moving on from Riverboat Ron and new owner and all that stuff. But NFC Championship game was definitely not on anyone's logical bingo card. So it's like really surprising to see. It's like, hey, you've got a pretty good group of guys already, and it's like, hey, let's get better. So yeah, I think they're going to be really, really good next year. And you saw that, like, this past season, they kind of had a lull in the middle end of the season there, but really turned it on at the end of the season into the playoffs. So yeah, they're going to be a front runner, I think.
Yeah, and DK to the Steelers is interesting to me too. I'm curious to see what happens with Russ there. I mean, I assume them not re-signing Fields means they're going to bring him back potentially. He's a free agent right now still, right? He hasn't signed.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see what the Steelers do. Maybe they're getting DK because they're getting ready to trade maybe another receiver and try and pick up a quarterback that way. But they now have a hole at the quarterback position, and I'm curious to see what they do. But that's a really good trade for them too.
Yeah, I think that'll really help George Pickens in, not being that real number one guy, as long as they're both on the field, because both of those guys are a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And like we were talking, buddies and I were talking about this yesterday. It's like they're very similar players, but like George Pickens does all of his goofy, in between the whistle or outside the whistle stuff, like in a funny way, right? Like where DK just gets aggressive and wants to harm another person. George Pickens is just a goof, you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but I feel like they would keep Russell too, right? At this point, it's like I thought he was going to go to the Raiders, And he's at the point of his career. It's like, well, how much money are you really going to get him? I don't think he's that old. I feel like he feels old just because he's been around for so long. He's probably like 35, 36 maybe. But I don't really know how much he's going to get going anywhere else. And like, I feel like the situation's definitely much better for them at this point. You just got another receiver that like you need. It'll help you run the ball. It's like, hey, we can effectively throw the ball. You're not getting a loaded box all the time. Because that's where they really struggle, is running the ball. Even though Najee Harris had like a deceiving 1,000-yard rushing season.
He always does. He always finds a way to knock on the 1,000-yard door. I'm such a not Najee Harris guy. Like in fantasy, he's like the bane of my existence, and but he still always ends up on my team because I can't argue with the numbers.
Yeah, he puts them up. Not sure
Yeah.
how, but it doesn't look like he does.
No.
He's just like a very, very even keeled 4 yards carry. No, like I feel like he hasn't broken out a 20-yard rush since like 2022. I don't know. We got a gauntlet of college basketball conferences to cover, and we did spend a significant amount of time trying to break up the best order to do this. So what we decided on, we were going to get rid of the fluff for episode 9. Episode 10 will have the remainder of them, but we're going to put all the big conferences in one, the one that people actually care about. Now, you don't want to tail these picks because, like I said, we are icicles in the Antarctic. Don't.
Wofford just won, by the way, too.
Oh, Wofford.
Troy is up 10.
Troy's up 10. Let's go.
Yeah, they're running away with it.
That's the Fun Belt Championship?
Yep.
Oh, fuck yeah. Let's go. Might get one. How much time's left? I'm sorry like if you just said that. Okay, I think we're good.
No,
all right.
Yeah.
All right. So we promised that we wouldn't miss anymore, and we broke our promise. We forgot about the darlings of the mountain range. We forgot the Big Sky. Who would you have said from the Big Sky? Because I would have said like Montana State or Montana or Northern Colorado. Those would be the three I would consider, and that's probably about it.
Yep, those would have been my three exactly. It always seems to be Montana and Montana State, regardless of what seed they are. Northern has been sneaky good this year, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a new face get to the end. That would actually be pretty exciting if they could, because they're last year and the year before that they were horrible. So could be fun to see a new Big Sky team sneak in. And Eastern Washington was not good this year, so my personal favorite team in that conference is not even one to consider. So.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, big missing chromosomes for us because we can't even read a calendar. But moving on to Conference USA, yeah, I'm just as I don't know. I mean, I don't bet a ton of Conference USA. Like to me, it would be Liberty or Sam Houston State. I feel like those are the two front runners in this conference. If I'm missing a different seed, I apologize, but I really am not sorry because I don't care. But those would be my two. Me just thinking about it. I mean, New Mexico State's not any good. Yeah, that's all I got. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with you on Liberty, and as chalk as it is, or the 1 seed, they're plus 115 to win this thing. Sam Houston State is actually the 9 seed. They're 60-1. So.
Oh, I thought they were good. Maybe they're not good.
No.
Yep, shows how much.
Middle Tennessee State could be interesting.
Oh yeah, they're good too. Yeah.
Yeah, at plus 600, they're the 3 seed. They wouldn't draw Liberty until the very end if they run that far. So that would be one that I look at. I'm with you on New Mexico State. That's typically a team that is an absolute wagon at home, and they're pretty garbage everywhere else, to be honest. So I wouldn't really look at them. Yeah, my two here would be Liberty or Middle Tennessee State.
Let's do Middle Tennessee State as a podcast, as a crew, as Overdue Sports, and you can laugh at us later. All right, now let's get into the fun stuff. Let's do the ACC. It's been Duke, it's been Clemson, it's been Louisville all year. I don't think either of those teams are going to win it. It just seems like one of these Power 5 conferences, you get an oddball that wins. Last year it was NC State. They fired their coach. They would have done that last year if they didn't win the tournament and get the auto bid and go all the way to the Final Four. How do you fire a coach after that? If they lost in the first round, he would have been gone last year, but he's gone this year. So I'm not saying they're going to do that again. I'm just saying, like, for the sentiment, I feel like one of these 5 conferences, it's always a long shot that wins one of them outright. And this might be the conference.
Here's my thing with the ACC is that it didn't really feel like a normal ACC year. Usually there's like 8 teams that you can look all the way down the list and say this team has a legitimate shot. I look down the list and I don't even really see 6 teams that have a legitimate shot. I mean, do you really think SMU as the 6th seed at 60-1 has a legitimate chance? Not really.
Well, that's Duke, the thing, though. It's like these
but it does happen a lot.
You
especially for a team like Duke. Like, yeah, you get the flowers of winning the conference, but they have no incentive to win this. They're going to be a 1 seed.
Yeah,
they're the number 1 team in the country right now.
They could lose the first round. They'll be a 1 seed still, probably.
No, they're minus 320 to win the conference.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. I would take a shot on Clemson at plus 700. That's crazy for a 3 seed. They play good offense. They play good defense. Like, they're a very well balanced.
Yeah, they're a good team.
And they beat Duke in the regular season. So I'm kind of leaning towards that. But like you said, like, this conference the last couple of years has been madness in the tournament. So I could be 100% wrong. I would say Clemson here would be my pick. I mean, the odds that Duke steamrolls this thing very well could happen. They're an absolute wagon this year.
It very well could.
I would look at Clemson. I mean, I don't even think there's anybody really down the list that I like. I mean,
what's Georgia Tech?
At 250-1 as the 8 seed. They would draw Duke in the quarterfinals, though. So if they won,
could be like a good hedge opportunity. See, that's the thing.
At 300-1.
Yeah, it's like, I think Georgia Tech is not good. Like, I'm not saying they're good whatsoever, right? But I feel like that's a team that's like frisky enough they could win a game or 2. Maybe I'm crazy, but it's like they get to the quarterfinals against Duke. It's like, hey, I'm sitting on a 250-1 ticket. It's like, you really can't hedge that, though, because I mean, Duke would probably be laying like minus 1,000. So like, you couldn't hedge out of it responsibly. So that's the problem. But hey, if you hate money like we do, throw a flyer on Georgia Tech. I don't know. But yes, those odds, it does seem like maybe a favorite or one higher up the chain is going to win one this year. It's always in the back of my mind. It's like one of these 5-6 conferences, one of them loses, or like one weird one wins. Seems like, and last couple of years, it has been the ACC. Maybe the.
I just feel like the SEC last year just didn't have that like team that waxes everybody. Like, they have Duke this year. I feel like the ACC has been missing that the last couple of years, and it's been a little bit more balanced in the middle. To me, the middle feels
they're
kind of bad. Like, Virginia is in the middle, more or less. They're the 9 seed, so they're like just below the middle.
They've been playing a little better, though. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I agree with you. The middle of that conference isn't like, a normal middle, or like, hey, they're not bad, but like, they're not good either. Like, most of this conference is kind of stinky. But I feel like some of those mid to bottom tier teams have been playing a little bit better the last couple of weeks. Maybe that's just because like the guys at the top are like, okay, it's kind of coasting, or if it's like, hey, we're trying to freshen up our resume. I'm not really sure, but what's Stanford?
Stanford is the 7 seed at 250-1, same as Georgia Tech, but Stanford would draw the winner of Virginia Tech and Cal, and then if they win that, they would play Louisville.
Maybe? I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like maybe I wouldn't look for a long shot here, but as soon as I say that, it's going to be Stanford and Georgia Tech in the championship game. So, no, I'm just kidding. That won't happen. But I like that Clemson pick too. Like, at 7-1, I feel like It might be like trappy enticing, but I think
probably is because they beat Duke, so that's probably like in my book, like they showed that they can compete with that level of teams. So to me, 7-1 there feels right. But then also you look at Duke at minus 320 as the favorite. It makes sense that the 3 seed would have that high of odds. This is probably the highest odds of a conference of a 1 seed that we've talked about so far. I think it is.
Minus McNeese, who was minus 550.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I forgot about it. Okay. So close, though. But in the ACC, like that should not happen in the ACC.
No, that's pretty staggering. Those power conferences, like I bet you. I'm just trying to think. I don't think any of them otherwise would be laying any juice. Like Auburn. Well, see, the SEC is hard because like they're all good. It's like the opposite of the ACC. Like they're all good, less 2 or 3 of them. I think Clemson would be a good look. That'd be my take on it. But I love those long shots. I'm addicted to those. So I probably won't wager anything in this conference because it's just lighting my money on fire. SEC, you want to move on?
Let's do it. It's a big one.
All right, run through those odds, William.
All right. So in the SEC, we've got Auburn as the 1 seed, plus 150. We've got Florida as the 2 seed, plus 270. We've got Alabama plus 425. We've got Tennessee plus 600. Then I'll just rattle off the next handful. We've got A&M 25-1, Kentucky 19-1, Mizzou 25-1, Ole Miss 65-1, Arkansas 150-1. And then you've got all the super long shots that are over 200. So
there's 2 I'm thinking about.
Let's hear it. I want to know if they're the same as mine.
The longer price ones.
Yes. Yep.
With like realistic chances of winning. I think I like Kentucky, and I think I like A&M. Is like, hey, this team could play in the championship game. I think those 2 teams, especially, more so Kentucky in the beginning of the season, and they're playing a lot better now. And then A&M kind of the opposite of that, where, hey, this team's really good, and then they've been ass down the stretch up until they beat Auburn. I like those 2 teams. I think just the narrative on them is like, oh, they're not really good. Maybe not so much with Kentucky. I think people have kind of come around on Kentucky because like in November, December, I heard people being like, oh, this team's not good. Like, I don't think that's necessarily the case, but they're definitely no Auburn or Florida. I think just everyone's going to be Auburn or Florida. And Auburn's lost 2 in a row, I think. Like, they're definitely gettable. They lost at home to Alabama, so they're definitely a gettable team at a neutral site that, like, you don't have that huge advantage. Mizzou's another one, like, very different, I guess you could say. Like, they got to hit shots. If they don't hit shots, they're not going to play well. Like, I don't know if you watched any of that Kentucky-Mizzou game on Saturday morning. That thing was ugly for 15 minutes. Both of the teams couldn't hit, and the game went over. It was bananas. But those are the 3 I would consider, like, as a longer shot here. I'm out on Alabama just because it's like they had a super tough schedule in February, and I thought they handled it pretty well. So, like, I'm looking to pass on them. Like, they had a gauntlet February. I think Tennessee is another team that people don't really like. They're kind of like, oh, this team was 4 at one point. They're not very good. I feel like that plays well just because that team plays defense and they muck it up. They don't score. I think they could be lively as well. I wouldn't look towards Auburn or Florida here. I'm not saying they wouldn't win, but like those are 2 I would not bet on, me personally.
You read my mind. My 2 favorites. Kentucky and Missouri.
Okay.
Missouri can easily muck this whole thing up. They've been really good since like tail end of January up until now. Been a really, really good team. Kentucky and Missouri also have more favorable draws than a Texas A&M. Texas A&M, if all it goes to chalk, they would play Tennessee in the quarterfinals and then Auburn in the semifinals if A&M were to run that. Kentucky plays one of Georgia and Oklahoma. Georgia can be feisty. but Kentucky would draw Alabama in the quarterfinals. That's tough because Alabama is going to be fresh. I always talk about how I don't like Alabama in tournament play because their style of play doesn't hold up for 6 consecutive games. It usually holds up for game 1, usually holds up for sometimes game 2, but they're bound to go cold eventually. Kentucky would draw Alabama in the quarterfinals. I think Kentucky can hang with them at 19-1. It's a good price. Mizzou at 25-1 would draw Florida, which scares me because Florida, I think, is a wagon.
I think they're the best team in the country.
They're big, they're physical, they're just a really impressive team to watch. But if Missouri somehow gets through Florida and they draw Alabama, or if you have stock in both and it's Missouri and Kentucky in the semis, you got a nice little spot there. I like both of those teams. Those are some long prices for teams that have shown that they can compete with the top half of this conference and the top end of this conference. I'm into both. I mean, the Missouri with their thing, like, I'm hoping that they can just hold down teams on offense. The thing with the SEC is they have such good guard play across the board. We always talk about guard play matters in these tournaments. Every team in the SEC in the top 10 has really good guard play. But Mizzou is no difference. And I think at that spot, like, maybe they catch Florida on the wrong day. Maybe maybe Kentucky.
They beat Florida. They beat them in a regular season. So, like, there's nothing saying they can't do it again, especially in this conference setting, because outside of South Carolina, anybody can win this tournament. Vanderbilt, too, I wouldn't. Now, how about Georgia?
I like Georgia, man. But like this time of year, they just don't put it together.
But like it's different. They're
always a tough team to beat. Under the Mike Snow White regime. Really solid team. I also like their draw. They draw Oklahoma in round 1, then they would play Kentucky, and then if they were to win that, they'd play Alabama. So they're in that bottom half of the bracket.
Oklahoma stinks too, by the way. But,
Georgia could be interesting. I believe they're 150-1, 110-1 is the 11 seed.
I think Arkansas could have a good hedge opportunity too, because Arkansas is on the outside looking in. They need to win a few games to make sure they can actually get into the tournament as, like a 9 seed or something. So if you like those long shots, that might be a look. They could definitely win a game or two. Don't know if they will, because they've been about as inconsistent as any of the power whatever, group of 8, whatever you want to call them, teams this season. I feel like Ole Miss had some traction early on. They've kind of just clunked out, so I wouldn't look that direction really. They're kind of in the same boat. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if they won a game or two. Mississippi State is kind of in that boat as well, but like played well enough to like stay in the mix. I mean, honestly, I think I could see any team winning this tournament outside of Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, and South Carolina. Like, the SEC is loaded. I would not want to be an odds maker pricing these because I think it's going to be the field. If you're going between Auburn and Florida, I think it's going to be the field. That was the championship game last year. Like, is that going to happen again? It could, but I don't think it will. I think you'll have at least Alabama in there. I mean, I personally don't like them, but to the championship, I'm saying. I don't personally think they'll make that, but if one of those guys are in, I would imagine the field would be number 2. Like, I don't think they're both going to get there. I don't know if they both can. Yeah, they're 1 and 2, so like they can both get there, but like I don't think they will.
I'm with you. Kentucky is really intriguing me. That might be my...
Yeah, I think so too. I think I like Kentucky, and I might sprinkle Arkansas, see if we can get that thing to the semis, and then...
Or at least the quarters when they match up with Auburn.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't imagine how big... I can't imagine any of these spreads would be gargantuan inside the quarterfinals. Like, I mean, maybe it'd be in like a minus 250. I mean, I don't know how much long. I don't know how big those spreads can really get. Like, I can't imagine you're going to see one that's like, oh, Auburn's minus 12 in the quarters. I just don't see that. I mean, Alabama's like what, third? They're third seed.
Alabama's the 3 seed.
Yeah, they're like what, 10-7 in conference play. That's wild.
Conference just beats up on
Yeah,
each
they
other.
beat the
What it
crap
does.
out of each other this season. Yeah.
This is the
Anything
one.
else?
You're talking about the
Yeah.
AC. I mean,
Oh
you were
yeah, I
like,
think this is actually
this
the
is the
one.
one. I think this is
But
the
then
one, not
again,
the
it's
AC.
like, but then again, it's like Florida was in the championship game last year, and I think they were like 125, 150 to 1.
They were
200 to
deep
1,
last
something
year.
crazy. But I don't know. I don't see rock chalk here. I just really don't. Like,
yeah, I'm with you.
This conference is too good to just run through, I think, but who knows? Big 12. What are your thoughts on the Big 12? Because I think this one is also this one also has the potential to be open. Houston is going to be the most obvious pick, and for good reason. They pretty much rolled through this conference. I don't know if they've lost a conference game. Maybe one.
I don't think they did.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because usually someone gets.
No, they did lose one. They lost one.
Iowa State.
They were 19
know who
and
they lost.
they were. I don't remember either. They were 19-1 in conference play.
I don't even know who they lost to, but I think this one can be sort of open. Like, it's not as deep as the SEC, but I think there are 3 or 4 teams that could make a viable option. Houston, obviously, right? It's hard to discount your team that's
they score this year.
Yeah.
That's the thing with Houston is they score this year. Usually they just play like really sound defense.
Yeah, no, we've been talking about that.
Yeah,
they
score.
can score.
It's different.
Guard plays really good. LJ Cryer's still playing basketball. Arizona's another one. They might actually. I think Arizona might have beaten them. I would have to guess it would be Arizona. Arizona's got to be, if not the 2 seed, the second odds-on favorite. I'd imagine. No,
they're the 3 seed and priced that way as well.
No, okay,
they're priced as the 4th odds on. So you've got Houston at minus 120, Texas Tech at plus 425, Arizona at plus 850, BYU at 11 to 1, Iowa State plus 700, Kansas at 13 to 1, Baylor 50 to 1, West Virginia 75 to 1.
I would probably cap it off at Kansas if it were me, but
Baylor,
I think Baylor is another like Arkansas situation where they're kind of on the outside looking in. They've really, really disappointing this season, and it's like, hey, if they catch fire, I wouldn't be shocked if they got to the semis or the final. Like, I think they're in the same position. They need to play really good basketball in this tournament to kind of make sure they have a chance. Who are the first?
You're on mute.
That didn't cut out while I was seriously talking, because I was mostly just talking to myself about the first 4 in, last 4 out, because we've been talking about it, and it's like, why are we speculating? Just pull it up. But
I mean,
Baylor's
it's really hard.
Last 4
it's really hard to not like Kansas. I mean, it's still Kansas. It's still Bill Self. I know it's not the same group that we're used to. BYU, I think, can be frisky. BYU was frisky in this tournament last year, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't quite remember, but I do agree with that sentiment that like Kansas is another team that like the public's really not about anymore. Like at first they were, and it's like I remember at one point they lost like 3-4 games in a row. That epic meltdown.
Yeah, they got caught by K-State and West Virginia, and then they got the brakes beat off them by Houston, I think.
Yeah, the second time, and it's like nobody wants this. Oh no, they covered the second time. I remember I bet that game. But like I feel like that's a team the public is really out on. Like, oh, this team sucks. They're not any good. So I kind of like that narrative. I think they could go on a run too. But the cream of the crop in this conference is really hard to look past because like, Houston is the real deal.
Yeah, I'm with you. Arizona is definitely catching my interest. I just think like between their non-conference schedule and what they did in conference, I think that can be a really interesting one. And at that price, I believe they're plus 800. Did I say 8 plus 700 plus 850? Could be a decent look. I'm with you though. I would look at Arizona. I would look at Kansas. Sucks that I can't say. I don't really want to say Baylor. I was really high on Baylor coming into the year. They just were not what I thought they were going to be.
Disappointing. Yeah, they are on the bubble. They're currently the last 4 buys.
So maybe there's a spot in Baylor, because I do think that team is talented enough. Like coming into the year, I really thought they were going to be a top 10 team for most of the year, and they just never really put it together. So maybe this is when we see them actually put it together. Maybe a look. I mean, if they get to the semis or the championship game in this thing, maybe they've got a shot at an at-large. So they might be playing for their season right now. Could be a good one to look at as well. But I'm with you. I like Kansas. I'm kind of in on the Arizona train. But Houston at minus 120, I mean.
Yeah, that's kind of
Tech made some noise in this tournament last year, too. I believe Tech and BYU were, like, really interesting in this tournament. Tech always is like –
they're well coached.
And this year they're just good. Normally they're like a middle of the road that just beats everybody for whatever reason. And this year they're like a legitimate threat in this. Yeah. So, yeah, I would look at Kansas. I'm with you.
Big Ten. Much like the SEC, just not as severe, I guess you could say. It's not as severely up for grabs, but this one is up for grab. All the teams in this conference like to do the do-do-dos, like, bonehead play, lose a game. See, this conference is addicted to that. Minus Michigan State. Michigan State just covers their wagons. Under the radar for a lot of the season too. Like, I don't know if they were ranked to start the season, and like they won the Big Ten regular season. So Michigan State's got to be the betting favorite, I'd have to imagine. If not them, be like Purdue or Wisconsin's not. I know that it would be either them or Purdue, right?
Purdue's the 6th seed. You got Michigan at plus 250, Maryland plus 350, Michigan at 12-1, UCLA at plus 650, Wisconsin plus 650, Purdue plus 650, Illinois plus 750, Oregon 28-1 as the top 8.
So as a 6th seed, they are right in the middle of the scrum.
Yes.
This one is wide open. And it always is. It always is. UCLA being plus 650 is pretty wild to me. That kind of jumped out at me because those 4 transplant teams did not fare very well for the bulk of conference play. Like, Oregon was pretty hyped up. UCLA was pretty hyped up for good reason too, and they both hit really bad stretches in the middle of January. That is surprising.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think my favorite 2 bets in this conference, is it too homer of me to say the Badgers? But the Badgers at the 5 seed
like
plus
too,
650.
They've been playing.
They've got a tough road.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to give you one that I think is, like, in my opinion, the scariest team, and they have a brutal draw, but it's Oregon.
Oh, okay.
No, I would never.
Rutgers.
Oregon was one of those teams, like, early on, they looked really good, and then they stunk in the middle part of the year. And then they came to Madison, they beat the Badgers, and they've kind of rolled. They found themselves as the 9 seed, and at 28-1. Like, Dana Altman is a great coach.
Great coach. They've got a lot of great coaches in this conference.
Yeah. They've got really good guard play. I really like the guy they have down low. I think his name is Biddle.
Nate Biddle.
His last name. Nate Biddle. He ate the Badgers' lunch in that game, specifically in the second half and overtime. He's a monster.
Yeah, he's a good ball player.
They could be really interesting. And you could potentially, I mean, they start with Indiana, and if they beat Indiana, they draw Michigan State in the quarter. So that's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
But they've just been so hot and cold to where I think they can make a run. And it's Dana Altman in March, which I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah. Any of these teams can make a run, like the bad teams included. Like, this tournament is pretty goofy a lot of the times. There are a few teams that I would be like hard no on. Rutgers, Iowa, Minnesota, Penn State, and Washington.
They didn't get in.
That's right. They probably changed.
There's so many teams. They changed the format. Penn State beat Wisconsin in the season ender, and they didn't get in.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy. I forgot. Who didn't get in? Minnesota, Minnesota.
Nope. Minnesota is the 12 seed. We don't have Washington, and we don't have Penn State, and I believe those are the only two.
Aren't there more teams? I thought there was like
17. Is there 17? 17. Yeah, 15 get in.
15 get in. Okay, yeah, that makes sense then. Yeah, this one is really hard to narrow down because like that middle of the pack, like after Michigan State,
all plus 650.
All have a viable chance. Yeah, Illinois does, Wisconsin does, Maryland does, Purdue does, UCLA does. I like that Oregon spot. Another team, another like hedge opportunity. Same deal. I think technically Nebraska and Indiana. Indiana is the last 4 bye. And
Nebraska didn't get in either.
They didn't make the tournament?
No, so there's 18 in basketball. I can never. I don't have my head straight for how many are in this.
You said 17. Okay, that's not good for Nebraska.
So Nebraska did not get in. Indiana is in as the 8 seed.
Yeah, Indiana's gonna. They need to have a good tournament too. They're on the bubble, so that's another. I like to think of those hedge pieces.
How do you
gotta win a couple games?
How do you feel about Michigan? Michigan is the 3 seed. And they're 8th in the odds. 12 to 1 is the 3 seed.
I feel like
they would draw Purdue.
A lot of that might just be because of the draw. And Michigan has looked pretty stinky down the stretch. Like they got waxed by Michigan State. Like that game ended up looking a little closer than it was. I think they might have lost by 10, 15, maybe a little more, but they've looked pretty poor down the stretch. Yeah, I don't know. I like your Oregon pick. It's kind of a longer shot. I might bet the Badgers, even though I don't think they've been playing pretty poorly too. And I'd like Illinois just because they seem to kind of ramp it up this time of year. But they won it last year. Mm-hmm. I think. Is that last year they beat Wisconsin? Or was that the year before? It might have been the year before. Might have been just Purdue last year.
Yeah, because I don't think the Badgers were in the championship last year.
No, must have been 2 years ago then. But yeah, this one's tough. I feel like you could bet Michigan State. This one. I think anyone could win this tournament. Like truly anyone. I mean, it's even hard to discount the 15 seed.
Iowa's the 15.
Oh no, never mind. Not Iowa. They
said the last 5 seeds are Iowa, USC, Northwestern, Minnesota, Rutgers, and Ohio State.
I would consider Ohio State. I think they could. I don't think they will, but I think they could. Ohio State could win a tough road game at any of these places. They'd beat any of these teams at home they could. So it's I don't know. I just feel like they're not exactly talented enough. But yeah, the Big Ten's open to me. I like your Oregon angle. I think there's some value there. I hate that word value, but for a team that played so well in November and December, being 20 to 1, you said?
Almost 30 to 1, 28 to 1.
Yeah, I think that if you like your long shots, I think that's a good look there. I think Purdue's got some life in them too. I feel like they've been beat down a little bit too. But that's just me. Anything else?
That's all I got.
All right, we got 2 more. This one is running a little long, but we had a lot of hoops to talk about. Big East.
I'm going to let you kick. I'll give you some odds, and I'm going to let you kick this off because you are the self-proclaimed Big East connoisseur. So we've got
self-proclaimed and relinquished back to whoever actually is Big East connoisseur. But I do love Big East.
We've got the Johnnies at the 1 plus 155. We've got Creighton plus 370, UConn plus 400, Xavier plus 850, Marquette plus 550, Nova 15-1, Georgetown 90-1, Providence 250-1, Butler 65-1, DePaul 300-1, Seton Hall. You can Seton Hall. I'm not even going to tell you the odds on Seton Hall because
they've got to be 750-1.
They're not. Believe it or not, them and DePaul have the same odds at 300-1, which is almost the same as Providence.
And Providence is like exponentially better than both of those teams, even though Providence just lost to DePaul last week. But St. John's is really good. It is really hard to ignore them, like all season. Been really, really, really good. Same with Creighton, except Creighton's kind of taken their lumps a little bit. Really good stretch.
They've been hurt too, haven't they?
Really
good. They've been kind of banged up this year.
Yeah, a little bit. And I mean, they're just not as talented. You lose Shireman and Nemhard. Kind of hurts your prospects a little bit. But they are priced a little short to me, so I think I've got them to make the Final Four at 17-1. I like this Creighton team. I always like Creighton. And they always show up. You know, I was a bad call away from cashing that ticket 2 years ago. But two teams that really stand out to me, outside of those two, obviously, Marquette. Marquette has been a team, actually three. Marquette has been expected to be really good, and I feel like they've been a little disappointing this year. It's not the same team. With Kolek was huge for them last year. And we're kind of just waiting for Shaka Smart to be like, okay, this is the year we're going to go on this run, right? He did it with VCU. I think he had some good Texas runs too. But like at Marquette, like they've always been really good. Kind of had the expectations. They were 2 seed last year and year 4. Like they're always right there, but like just doesn't seem like okay, we're ready to play March basketball. You know what I mean? It's just like they kind of just leave you like expecting more. Xavier's on the bubble. I think you're going to get a good tournament out of them too. Don't know if they're going to win, but this is a team that can keep up with anyone in the conference, right? Sean Miller's a good coach. They're definitely not as talented as they were 2-3 years ago, but I feel like this team still has a little bit of life in them. Third team, UConn. I feel like we finally changed the narrative. It's like, oh, UConn, 2-time national championship winners. This team's going to be good. They can do no wrong. I feel like we're finally getting to the point where like, okay, UConn's not good. And maybe it's a good time to buy. Not saying necessarily for this tournament, but they're going to be in. That doesn't if they lose the first round, it's not like they're going to be going home. But I feel like UConn might be a good time to buy. I feel like they're just in that Kansas boat, right? Like kind of, I don't know about them. I feel like those are the teams that always play really, really well.
UConn was the one I was actually going to ask you about. At plus 400, they're the 3 seed. We've seen a ton of meltdowns from Hurley this year. So the public perception.
People who don't like him, they're nerds. They're nerds.
I agree. He's a maniac. It's crazy. He went ballistic for it felt like the first 2 entire months of the season. So.
Rightfully so. They were bad.
Yeah. UConn could be interesting here. I mean, I love St. John's this year. I think they're going to make a run in the tournament. At plus 155, I definitely wouldn't bet them.
But I think they are the real deal for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. This one is just a tough one for me to wrap my head around because, like you said, like Marquette isn't the same team, but Shaka Smart is an awesome coach. Like you feel like they've just been punching the wall and punching the door and waiting for it to break through, and he just hasn't done it yet. Could be the year.
There too,
it seems like they're there right. It seems like they're that way every year though, and they just haven't gotten over the hump.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they're bad, right? Like a lot of the sentiment is just like betting on them in the regular season, and they leave you a little frustrated because like every time you bet on Marquette and they don't come through for you, like they're winning the whole game, and then they blow it. Like I had Marquette plus 4 Wednesday night last week. They're winning at halftime against UConn. and they're down 1 with like 40 seconds left. They lose by 6. And like, of course, it doesn't matter about spreads, right? But like, that's how people think about it, right? Like, you watch these teams all year, you bet on them if you're very vested in it. And that's kind of where your brain goes to. It's like, oh, I don't like that team. They piss me off. I'm not going to bet on them. I'm going to fade them. That's where the whole narrative of fading the public comes from. They piss you off. And what's the worst thing you can do out of emotion after a team blows a game for you? Fade them the next time. It's the worst thing you can do. It's when you want to buy them. So that's kind of where I'm at, especially with UConn, because like the whole narrative of everyone realizing that at the same time just kind of happened. Like, and they're objectively not as good as last year. I don't think people expected them to be, but I still think people expected them to be really good. Like, they're not that good. They're just flat out not. But that doesn't mean it's like, hey, I don't want anything to do with them. It's like, maybe I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Maybe deep down they are still good. But Marquette, yeah, I kind of feel the same way about them too.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't have a whole lot to add after that. I'm really in on St. John's this year, so this isn't probably a tournament that I'm looking to
I don't think
take a future on like some of the others.
Probably not for me either. And I don't
Johnny's an attorney.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I want to see Rick Pitino and Rich Pitino coaching against each other. It's going to be the best.
Yes.
And I have an 80-1 conference or Final Four future on the Lobos, so I think that's like 30-1 now, 25-1 now. Probably
we love the Lobos around here.
Yeah, we do love the Lobos. Speaking of the Lobos, our last conference for the evening, the Mountain West Conference. A lot like the other conferences, I think there's a lot of different ways you can go here. I think this one's pretty wide open too.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll just run down the list. Lobos, 1 seed, plus 250. We got Colorado State, who's playing ridiculously good basketball right now, plus 350. Utah State, plus 330. San Diego State, plus 700. Boise State, plus 425. UNLV, 20-1. Nevada, 22-1. I will omit the rest because they're all well above 200-1.
Nevada. I'm
going to give you one.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to give you one right here. I think I might play this. It's Colorado State, plus 350. They've been playing absurd basketball since the new year hit, especially in February. Way of character. And as much as I love New Mexico, they got caught in this tournament last year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
They always do. Yeah, they're always favorite.
I was a big Boise State guy coming into the year. I thought Boise was actually going to win the conference this year, and they've kind of struggled a little bit. Having said that, I still would look at them, but I don't love their draw.
Like them. That's what Colorado, I was going to say.
Really, Boise? Yeah, I just don't like the draw for them at that price point, but I do really like Boise. I'm a big Boise State guy. I would look at that one. Colorado State's probably my favorite here, but Boise would definitely be my second one. But I'll let you talk on Boise, but man, Colorado State is probably my favorite one.
Yeah, that's hard to omit. They have been playing really good basketball, but Boise just hasn't really been playing good basketball. It's been like the complete opposite of Colorado State. And it's been recently too. Like, they've kind of been struggling down the stretch here. But I just like plus 425. Yes, they're the 3 seed, but like just kind of the eyeball test, like they've been really bad down the stretch. I feel like maybe they haven't been all that bad, but who thumped them pretty good the other night? Was that who did they just play? Yeah. They were winning like most of the game. They ended up losing. Boise State.
I mean, they just got beat by Colorado State a couple nights ago. They thumped Air Force. They beat Fresno. They beat Utah State. It's probably Colorado State. It must have been
Colorado State I was thinking of. And like that game was pretty good for the most part until like the last 5 minutes, and it really got out of hand. I think at one point they were winning by 8 and they lost by 10. All within like 8 minutes. So yeah, I feel like they're just not playing the best basketball, and I feel like them being priced at 425 is a little suspicious. Lobos being plus 250 and probably being the clear best team in this conference is also pretty telling to me. I don't think they're going to win this tournament.
Give me the Rams. Put it on the record.
Yeah, I think I like that one. I think I like those two. I think those are both really good looks. Yeah, there's really not much else to talk about here. San Diego State, I feel like, could be lively at 7-1 because I don't think they're really that bad. I just feel like the transfer portal got them pretty good last year. Like Lamont Butler's on Kentucky now. A big center they had, I don't even think he's there anymore. I don't know if he transferred or not. But this conference, like typically it's been how many Mountain West teams can we get into the tournament just to watch them all suck until San Diego State ruined that. Now it's like we don't want any of these teams minus the Lobos and one other in the tournament. And I think we're going to kind of be leaning that way. Like I would be surprised if you got more than like 4, maybe 5. Because I think the one year
that's even a stretch. They got 5 last year. And I thought it was like I thought it was the year for the Mountain West. Like Utah State got in, Boise State got in, San Diego State got in, New Mexico got in, and they all lost in the first round.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was going to say. I thought that year was like 7 teams. Like I remember Colorado State had that really guard with the big guard with the poofy hair. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, they got everyone was like, oh, they're beating Michigan.
And I think Nevada got in too, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was like the year where the Lenardi or whoever actually picks these teams is like, okay, that's it. We're done with the Mountain West. So like now I think we're kind of be, more realistic expectations, but it'll definitely be 2. Like the Lobos are in. They spent most of the season ranked. They'll be in. The winner, obviously. And I feel like Colorado State, New Mexico, Utah State.
Boise, for what it's
Boise's
worth,
on the bubble.
Boise State and Colorado State have the same record right now, but they're just kind of going in different directions. Mm-hmm. Colorado State's 100%. Playing the best, like maybe the best basketball of any mid-major team, I would say right now. So they're like trending up, so they're probably more likely to get in on an at-large. But they're both 22-9 on the season as we sit, and that win over Boise State probably gets them the nod over Boise.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Don't look any further than the 5 or so we talked about because Fresno, bad. Air Force, bad.
Horrible. Wyoming, bad.
San
Jose State, bad.
Cover spread gods, though. They love covering spreads.
They play Wyoming in that first matchup on Wednesday, so could be a yucky one.
Yes. Want to wrap this bad boy up? Think we've talked.
That's what I got. Give me the Rams. Stamp it. That's all I got. I forgot I got to do that. I forgot I have to plug the stuff.
Yeah, well, you don't have to. You just make you.
No, but I just should. Yeah. Follow us on Twitter at Overdue Sports. Be sure to subscribe to the Substack and YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow. You're going to listen to this on Tuesday. Hopefully you're listening to this. I don't know if you got this far, but if you did, we're going to be back tomorrow with another one. We're going to be wrapping up the rest of the mid-majors that you probably don't care about, but we do. So we're going to talk them all through, and we'll be back tomorrow.